Has any decision been made yet about games in Puerto Rico later this month? Will those go on as scheduled, or any chance still that they might be moved?
Yeah, we have not made a final decision with respect to the games in Puerto Rico. I do expect that we will have an announcement either tomorrow, at the very latest on Monday.
Back to those games in Puerto Rico for a second. What are you waiting for before announcing the decision, and would the game be moved to Miami? If it is?
Yeah, the games, let me go backwards. The games were originally Miami home games, and they would be moved back to Miami. We are in the process of still having discussions with a variety of interested parties, mostly outside the game, to make sure that everything, every individual that has an interest been involved, that we've had conversations with them before we make a final decision and announcement. I really can't say more than that. What will be the latest on Monday?
Rob, can you talk about the latest rash of PED violations and what you feel are doing?
Well, I think most importantly, I think that the suspensions that we've had are evidence of the fact that we have a first-rate enforcement program. I think our testing protocols are as good as anywhere in sport, and I'm leaving the word professional out on purpose. As you know, we take great pride in our investigative capacity, and both of those enforcement mechanisms have been in play this year. We're always disappointed when a player makes a bad decision. Having said that, we think we're doing the right thing in terms of protecting the integrity of the sport.
Are they more improved? Because do you think that's part of the reason why there's maybe a higher frequency of people getting caught, or are people disappointing it at a higher rate?
Look, there are, we don't talk a lot about specific changes. I will say this. We have made improvements in the program in terms of lengthening the windows of detection. Those improvements are ones that apply across programs. It's not baseball specific, it's just that the science is getting a little better. That may be part of the issue.
Rob, thank you. Welcome to Chicago. Nice
Thank
to see you. Is baseball held to a higher standard, or do you people hold the sport to a higher standard? Because it seems like fans care more about steroids in baseball than they do, or performance-enhancing drugs in baseball than they do in other sports.
I do think that fans care more about performance-enhancing drugs in baseball, and quite frankly, I embrace that higher standard. It drives me, it drives us to try to be the best we can possibly be in terms of the programs that we run to prevent the use of performance-enhancing drugs. And the reason I embrace that higher standard is I think it is a reflection of the fact that our fans have a special bond with our game that's really important to the game going forward.
What was your reaction to Jake Arrieta feeling compelled to speak out against some of the accusations against him last week, and what that says about maybe the assumption a lot of fans make?
Well, I think a player being put in a position where he has to defend himself against allegations that have absolutely no basis is a really unfortunate circumstance. The one thing, and I've talked about this occasionally in the context of Hall of Fame balloting, I know from my own experience and what I've learned about performance-enhancing drugs that you can't tell who's using performance-enhancing drugs based on things like personal appearance, outstanding performance. They're just not accurate predictors. Believe me, if somebody's using performance-enhancing drugs, our testing program is the one sure way to know that that's happening.
Do you see the second base sliding rules being, what's the reaction that you got from them, and do you feel like there's some kinks still to be worked out on those?
Well, whenever you change a rule that with respect to the play of the game on the field, there's going to be a period of adjustment. There certainly has been one with respect to the slide rule, but I would focus on the positive. Number one, I do think the rule serves a really important and fundamental purpose, and that is protecting player safety. And I think even in the last couple of weeks, you've seen us getting more to the sort of equilibrium that we reached with respect to the home plate rule. And quite frankly, we got there a little faster at second base than we did at home plate.
Rob, a lot of players that I've talked to insist that baseball should be even tougher with their drug program. With the CBA coming up very soon, will that be a focal point of your side in your conversations with the Players Association to get that no tolerance area closer to than what we have right now?
Well, we certainly will be making, I'm not going to talk in detail about anything that goes on at the table. I will say two things. Historically, we have made proposals and will this time around that are designed to strengthen the drug program in a variety of ways. To the extent that players have expressed views about additional sanctions, tougher programs, I'd encourage them to make sure that the MLBPA knows their views and that the union carries those views to the table with them.
How important are social media initiatives in reaching younger fans? And is it fair to wonder why Major League Baseball seems a little bit behind other sports and other leagues in that regard?
It is always fair to wonder. I will agree with that. Look, I think that we understand that baseball, to move forward with the next generation, needs to make our game available or to give our fans an opportunity to engage with our game on a variety of platforms. I think that you can criticize us for having been a little slow in that regard. I think even this season, you've seen us undertake a number of initiatives, new partnerships. I point in particular to the Snapchat Day that we did during spring training. I think that is indicative of a desire of Major League Baseball to increase the fan engagement on those variety of platforms.
Commissioner, with success comes engagement amongst fans. To have in one of your biggest markets, not one, but two teams in first place, what does that do for the sport?
Well, look, we are proud of all 30 of our markets. They're all important to us. There is no doubt that our largest markets, when they're successful, they're good for our overall business. I think the idea of having two really good teams in a major market like Chicago is particularly exciting. Creates the prospect of postseason play that would be compelling, and it's a great thing for Chicago.
Rob, do you think about Cubs and Sox, the possibility? Has it ever crossed your mind?
Yeah, if I told you that hadn't crossed my mind, you'd say they need to get somebody else to do this.
In terms of Cuba and where does it stand in change in regard to opening those doors a little wider?
I thought Cuba was a fantastic opportunity for the game. I think it's baseball at its best. It gave us a chance to play a small role in a really historic process whereby the relationship between the United States and Cuba, I believe, is going to change fundamentally. The game got great exposure at a point in the calendar that is challenging, right? It's spring training, you got a lot going on in the NCAA tournament. So all positive from our perspective. We are having conversations, ongoing conversations. I guess I'm up to 4 parties now, the Cubans, the United States government, the MLBPA, and us, directed at getting us to a system that accomplishes 2 goals. One, allows players to move safely in and out of Cuba and play Major League Baseball. And 2, and this is important, make sure that players have an opportunity to come here, but that opportunity doesn't become disruptive of the fundamental place that baseball plays or holds in the Cuban culture. Cuba's like the United States. Baseball is part of its culture, and I want to make sure nothing we do interferes with that.
Rob, what does your research tell you about how younger people, maybe 15 to 40, are following the game? I know your at-bat app gets about 8 million hits a day. How do you look at that, and how do you look at the evolving changes in how people watch games?
Well, Clearly, the demographic of our at-bat users, the 8 million that you refer to, is really different than our broadcast audience. The at-bat users average somewhere in their 30s, a couple decades younger than the average age of our broadcast audience. We look at that as a challenge, and I think the challenge is for baseball to deliver to its fans games, content in the way that they are consuming other types of media. And it will, I don't think you're ever going to see a situation where you can't get games on your local RSN, but those games may be supplemented by other forms of delivery that is more attuned with the way that millennials consume content.
Probably a lot of the data of the appeal process, especially after Lauren came out with PED. Any way to speed up that process, or it's always going to take that length of time?
Bob, I'm sorry, I missed the beginning of the question.
Oh, there's so much made of the appeal process when you guys file the PEDs. Is there any way to shorten that process to make it quicker?
We have pretty tight timeframes in the appeal process. There's a certain amount of science involved that it is, we can't make the labs get results or get confirmations faster than they do them in the ordinary course. I think the second thing I'd say is this. These are really serious suspensions that are handed down. Talking about 80-game suspensions, or God forbid you're in the mode of a second or third offense. Time, because the suspensions are so serious, I think that you do need an appeal process that gives the player a genuine opportunity to raise whatever he has with respect to a potential discipline.